I turned 50 on Tuesday, and I don't remember agreeing to this. Um, it seemed, I swear that like we were just kids not that long ago, riding around with nothing planned, thinking that life was going to start later, like later. But somewhere along that way, later showed up and it didn't ask permission. I've been doing the math in my head, not years, but moments, and the stuff that sucks, that sticks, the stuff that disappears. And I keep thinking about a friend of mine, Brian, and how we were buddies in junior high and high school, and we were inseparable. We were best friends. And I haven't really talked to him in a long time, but I started thinking about turning 50, and I started thinking about Brian. Um, I started thinking about the things that we did, the memories that we had that, are freaking core memories for me for sure. And it's like, if we're 50, dude, it's 1976. We're born, you were born in 75, I think, actually. So you've been 50 for, fuck, dude, sorry. You've been 50 for a minute. My bad. We've just been out of touch, and life, happens that way. I miss hanging out. I miss having, going to concerts, that no one knew we were going to. In high school, we would go to, what was it called? The Rome, I think, at OU. And we'd get in and we'd go and see concerts there. And bands would come, like pretty decent bands would come. In fact, The Wake was one of our favorite local bands at the time. And we would go every time, just about every time we found out that they were going to play down there, we would go down there and listen and be there and have a blast. We knew every song. They had to change their name to Wakeland. And so you can still find them on Spotify. In fact, one of the things that's been crazy is that, I'm getting ready to turn 50, and I'd had Wakeland on my Spotify for a while, and like songs that I liked, so it would play them in my in a so in Spotify I've got a playlist called Drive, and that Drive playlist is all of the songs that I like. Basically probably 72 plus hours, if not more, of music is on that, and that's so that whenever I get in the car I can just hit it, and it's songs that I know that I'm gonna like. Sometimes just skip through them because you just heard it. But to get back, my point is that I'm getting ready to turn 50. That's happening on Tuesday. February 10th is my birthday. And so that's happening after this weekend. Craziness. But Wakeland has been popping up in my feed. And I don't, like, how's that happen? And it takes me right back to high school. I know that it's random, but it feels really connected to me. Like that. Isn't that weird how your playlist um, feels connected to you? Maybe there's algorithms to that or something. I'm not real sure. But yeah, getting ready to turn 50, and I I don't know that this, well, I know this is not what I expected. I mean, Brian, remember when we were kids, and I say kids, when we thought we were adults. We were, 18 years old and thought we knew everything. I think I was one of those that thought I'd have a bunch of kids. I thought that I would probably settle down quickly, get the job career going, and have a bunch of kids. I was even fine if it was the case that I was the Mr. Mom and I was the one that stayed home and took care of the kids. I wanted to grow little people. Like I wanted to mold them and shape them into things that would go out and create and do. Um, I always joked about wanting to have enough kids that I could have a team of something, basketball or football or whatever. Um, just always joked around about that and thought that's what, for one, thought that's what would happen and thought that's what I wanted. That's not what happened, and obviously not what I wanted, because you could have made that happen. You could have suffered through, find somebody that, didn't line up. And not that I found anybody at this point that had lined up in past relationships anyway. So still back to the end point of being single at 50, starting over. Um, but yeah, I thought life would be different. I've got one daughter, love her to death. Um, didn't really, after we had her, I didn't really, the need to have more kids of my own was gone. Like, I don't know, I don't know why. I mean, the daughter that I have is amazing. Molly's crazy good, dude. She's into music, um, which is awesome. We were both into music. She likes the bands. Some of the bands, dude, she's into um, like Nirvana, but not your traditional songs. She likes Plateau is her favorite song. So she's hardcore. She's not just the kid that wears the shirt that doesn't know anything. She's the kid that wears the shirt. And then when you come up and ask, "Hey, do you do you like that? Name me a song," and she says Plateau, and you're like, "Oh shit, shit." So, and we show each other new music, kind of like we did, Brian. Kind of like we did back in the day. We would put CDs. We had the 5 disc changer, and you'd put CDs, and you could program that to record on a cassette, CD number 1, song 4, and then you could program the next song, so it would change, it would move, and it would could go to CD number 2, song 6. And you could make a whole, you had to figure out how much time you had to do that so that you stayed within the limits of the tape. And that was tricky because you didn't want a lot of end time, like dead space at the end. So you had to be almost strategic with the time frame, and then think about the gap that you're going to have as the CD player would change. Anyway, that's a Gen X. Wow. That's a Gen X thing for sure. I'm sure a lot of you guys relate to that because mixtapes were, dude, they were the thing. I would have mixtapes for dates, that I would make. Song 3 was always Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes. It's whenever I felt like as you were driving to a location, the first song was like, "Hey, how's it going? So happy to see you." The second, song was kind of like a little more of the same, probably a little more laughter, a little more, that was funny, that happened, whatever. And then the third song I always felt is when like we're on a date, like, let me set the mood a little bit. Anyway, stupid, but that's what I did um then. And I mean, it was just what it was the times. Now you just make us, it's the same thing now. You just make a Spotify list and then you can play that. But there was a lot more work that went into it, and a lot more strategic that had to go into that because we didn't have all of this. I can't imagine if we had run around with cameras, capturing still images, and we did. I mean, we had, I think every other girl had a disposable camera with her, because everybody would especially girls would take a bunch of pictures and scrapbook them, or put them in a box. That's probably what most of them did, was put them in a box if they even got them printed. And then I think there were some that would make, you know, not a scrapbook, but the book where you could put, a 4x5, 4x6 image in, and flip the pages. A lot of people would do that. Like, that's what we did, and now everything's Instagram or whatever it may be. Man, Brian, the things have changed. If I knew, yeah, I don't know. If I knew all this was going to be this way, what would have been different? I don't know that anything probably would have been different, but turning 50 in 2 days and I don't feel it. I don't feel I don't feel like what I always thought a 50-year-old is or should feel like, or all of those things. It's just it snuck up on me, and it snuck on up on me in a weird time because I'm at this weird time where I moved back from Alaska last year. Worked a couple jobs that just didn't work out. I'm at one that, frankly, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with this one? Um, but but yeah, it's been a 50 years old, kind of starting over again, so to speak. It's daunting, but in a way, it's what Gen X does. It's what we've done before. No one we built ourselves. I mean, I say that I'm a Gen X that had parental support as far as they were my they were my friends. My parents didn't have money, so it wasn't like they could pay my rent, and let me just go f off into the distance like kids do now. They helped when they could, but for the most part, it was kind of figure things out. And and that's just kind of what I'm doing right now. I've got to find a good working situation. Either this one's gonna have to get better, or something's gonna have to change. And there's potential with this one. I just need, yeah. We won't get into it too much, but Brian, I hope you're doing well. I don't know. I don't know what you're up to now. Um, I was always jealous whenever I would talk to you about the things that you were doing, and maybe that sounds weird, but you moved down to Austin and worked at a bar on Sixth Street. Um, I think you ended up managing, or you were something. You'd been there for, I think you're managing a bar at some point. I don't know when in your career that happened, but you played drums in bands for a while. I don't know if you still get to do that. Again, I haven't been able to talk to you, but I always envied those things. We talked about it, man. We talked about getting in a band and and doing the thing, or being the guy that goes and finds music and signs them to record labels. What kind of a freaking cool job would that have been? Um, and you moved to Austin and you were in the scene. I was always really jealous about that. Jealous in a good way. Like jealous, like not jealous like I wish it didn't happen to you, but like I wish that I was there with you, kind of thing. Um that sounded like it was probably a lot of fun. I'm sure that it wasn't fun all the time. Life's that way. Just like my life, had some great things. Photography was really good to me for many, many years. It got oversaturated with digital cameras. We were the first studio to go digital, and and yeah, yeah, it was good to me for a long time, and I still enjoy taking pictures every once in a while. More on the artistic side probably than portrait work or anything like that. But yeah, a lot's happened in so shit, dude. I mean, sporadically I've seen you since we were 18. A couple times probably when you were in town checking checking up on mom, and seeing how your mom's doing. You'd come into town, and we'd be able to talk. I'm sure you've been in town way more than the couple times, but where it's worked out that we could go get a beer or something, has always been nice. We're different people, and I get it. We're different people than we were when we were younger, um, for sure. And we've gone probably a lot different routes. Um, Photography, and then sales, and doing the overland, the off road stuff that I enjoy. Um, Yeah. Brian was one of the best. Like, dude, you were one of the best athletes that I knew. I wouldn't say that you excelled necessarily uh, in the sports that I played. So like that's not the case. I played football. You did great until size was a problem. Brian was he's a little wiry, little wiry guy. Tall, a little wiry. Wrestled. God, wrestled. Zach and I were actually talking about wrestling the other day, and he was talking about in junior high wrestling with you, and that you and him were, um, because you were tall and lanky, um, had the same wrestling styles, and he always thought that you were a really good wrestler, and you played baseball and you could pitch and do all the things. Anyway, dude, I'm reminiscing a little bit. 50's just around the corner, so um, yeah, there's been a lot of life happen in that space. A lot of good and a lot of bad. A lot of experiences that have made me the person that I am today. There's a girl that I'm seeing, and she's amazing. And I guarantee that if I had met her 20 years ago, it probably would not have worked out. I needed the life experiences that I had, good and bad, to be the person that I am comfortable with now, and I am. I have I have thoughts that conflict each other. I have beliefs that kind of conflict each other, but it works for me. Yeah, yeah. I've kind of figured myself out, and the pigeonhole places that I think people try to put you in throughout, when you're younger, they tell you here, this, you got to do this to be here, and do this to be here, and do this to be here, and do that. I think it's a good, I think it's good to have that direction, but I'll be the first to tell you things aren't going to go that way. They're going to change, and it's not going to be all bad. There's going to be a lot of good that happens, even in, the bad relationships that I've had. There were still good times, or I wouldn't have been in it. You know, it was just, they ran their course, is basically what happens usually. So, so yeah, looking at 50 on Tuesday. And I think it's still going to be an adventure. One of the things that you look at, um, when you're rebuilding, or when you're finding yourself, whenever you're starting out on your journeys, you're kind of like, this is what I've decided to do. This is what I'm going to buckle down to do. When you're in your 20s, when you're 25, it's adventure. It's go do this, go west, young man. Haven't you been told? Anyway, um, yeah, it's people are excited for you. And I don't understand that when you turn 50 and you do the same thing, you're like, hey, I think I know what I want to do, or I think I got to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't like my current situation. So I've got to replan. I've got to rebuild. I've got to redefine myself. I've got to re-enter maybe a different work phase. I've got to do all these things. The same things that you did whenever you were in your early 20s, when you were 25 and you come up with this and people are patting you on the back and going, hey, yeah. Now it's looked at differently, you know? Oh, oh, sorry. No, don't be sorry. I fucking lived in Alaska for 2 years. Had amazing experiences. I went to Europe. I I've been to more places outside of the United States than most people have. Most people, period, have. And for me, those things are what's rich. I've camped more than most people will camp. I've had to get myself unstuck out of something, or I was just going to have to die there, like out in the middle of nowhere. I've done so many cool things, so many fun, adventurous things. I paint, I do photography, I write. I still do all of those things. And I'm not, I know that 50, and I've probably said, I have to reinvent or I have to refine myself. And I think really what it is that I'm going to do is that I'm going to step back and I'm going to remember the things that I loved to do and why I love to do them, and reinvest my time and energy into the things that have always brought me joy, and figure that out moving forward. The things that have always brought me joy have been painting, drawing, photography, writing, being outside, exercising, which I haven't really, I started doing again and then hurt my arm. And I think my arm may be starting to get better again. I got a big ass shot in it. So we'll see, getting older. But yeah, I think I'm going to take inventory of 20 to 25-year-old Michael, and and even younger, maybe 6-year-old Michael, and put some more energy into some of the things that I used to love, and kind of see where that goes. In fact, maybe that'll be an experiment moving forward. Start painting again, start writing some more, report back to you guys at some certain point in time, and let you know, like, hey, look, remember when we talked about this right when I was getting ready to turn 50? Ignore all that bullshit because it's not true. hopefully, um, hopefully everything's still good. Even though things are kind of crazy right now in my life, I'm in a 3-bedroom duplex in Mustang to be closer to my daughter's school. Since she's in band, she'll be able to come here and kind of get food and do whatever she needs to do, especially whenever she turns 16. Um, I didn't have a desire to buy here. And again, I'm starting over. I'm starting a new work identity over. So I wasn't going to be in a position to buy anyway. So I'm renting, and that's maybe something we'll talk about, is buying a house at 50 is buying a house at 50 with a 30-year mortgage a good idea? Probably not. Probably not a good idea unless it was nothing, because you got to, and this is going out to most everybody, this isn't, there's people that are like, well, why wouldn't you just buy a house? It's no big deal. It's, the place that I was going to rent was going to be the same. I'm in this place like I'm in college. In fact, maybe that's why the music's coming up more, and my thoughts of Brian are coming up. Maybe it has nothing to do with turning 50. Maybe it's that I have changed kind of the footprint, not footprint. What am I trying to say? I've changed like the point. I've changed the surroundings, I guess. The atmosphere. That's it. I've changed the atmosphere in my life, and I'm having fun. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm not in a house that I'm stressing about. I'm in a house that something happens, I call a landlord. Rent's cheap. I'd live in a cave. I would live in a cave. I would live in it. I would live. I've talked about a truck camper. Anyway, that's for a whole different show. But um, yeah, Brian, I was thinking about you a lot, and I hope you're doing well. And I hope that one of these next times that you come up here, that you reach out and we go get a beer. Um, I don't get to Austin too much, but I don't have a reason to go to Austin, um, other than you. But yeah, hopefully I'll get to see you and we'll get to talk and relive old stories, talk about where we're at in our lives, what's happened, all those things. I'm excited about turning 50. I'm not worried about it. It's weird. It's weird that it's 50. You know, the person that has the hardest time with me turning 50 on Tuesday, February 10th, is that my grandmother has the hardest time. She's got a grandson that's 50 years old. Freaks her out. She does not know what to do with that. She's funny. She's pretty awesome. And yeah, she's like, I don't you're 50? Like, there's no way I have a grandson 50 years old. And I'm also a kid. I I'm very young at heart. And so it's also weird that I've got this gray beard and that I act like I'm 13 years old most of the time. But yeah, things are going great. I see I see a lot of things I still need and want to accomplish. And I'm in, and yeah. Anyway, welcome to the Hyden Out Loud podcast. My name is Michael Hyden, and yeah, let's see where this goes. 50-year-old single guy moved back to Oklahoma. Whew. We'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you guys for being on here. I hope you have a wonderful day, and all donations for my birthday can be sent to my Cash App. I'm just kidding. You guys have a wonderful day. Hope you have a great birthday whenever that may be. Bye.